Welcome to Soulful Insights, the podcast where we break free from trauma, shed patriarchal conditioning, and reclaim our full spiritual sovereignty. I'm your host, Tandy, and today's episode is for every woman who's ever been told that her joy was selfish, her voice was too loud, or her dreams were unattainable. If you've walked away from high-demand religion or any system that made you feel small, shameful, or unworthy, this is your turning point. Because reclaiming your joy isn't just healing. It's rebellion against the very systems that seek to keep you small. Reclaiming joy is a reclamation of your power, your sovereignty, and it is your birthright. Today, I'm going to show you how to rise into your joy. So let's begin. I want you to reflect for a moment back to any time in your life where you felt unseen, unheard, dismissed, or belittled. Maybe it was on a playground where a little boy told you girls aren't as smart. Maybe you heard boys teasing other boys about throwing like a girl. Maybe it was a parent who belittled your dreams to be a scientist or a concert pianist. Whatever those moments are for you, I want you to take that memory and I want you to stand tall in your full feminine power and reclaim that moment. Embody the inner knowing that you are the epitome of wild strength, passion, beauty, intelligence, creativity, every ability necessary for you to live authentically, to live out your dreams and passions with success. If you've ever felt like you had to ask permission from anyone, it's time to call your power back into yourself. Even if you felt you had to pray and ask what decision to make. I know that statement is going to make some of my religious friends recoil just a little bit, but I'm not here to make you comfortable in playing small and outsourcing your sovereignty. I'm here to call you forth, to make that comfort zone uncomfortable enough that you step out of your shell and you rise. If you felt you had to ask a deity about every decision you made, you are outsourcing your sovereignty. You may be aware of your physical body, and you may have been told that you are an inherent sinner. You're an enemy to God, that your heart is deceitful, or any number of concepts that made you believe you were unable to make decisions on your own. What I want you to know is that you are not inherently bad. You are not an enemy to God. You are divine. You came from light and unconditional love, and that is the natural state of your soul. And when you tap into that higher wisdom, you can be directed in the path that's perfect for you. You can learn to trust yourself. And in that trust, you learn your true worth. So before we can reclaim our joy, we have to name what was taken. Patriarchal systems, whether religious, cultural, or societal, have one thing in common. They rob women of their power at the root. And this isn't just about Christianity, although it is the predominant religion where I live, and it absolutely does that. But it's about every system that elevates male authority while reducing women to roles of service, silence, and sacrifice. These structures steal a woman's autonomy, suppress her voice, consume or shame her body, and sever her from her intuition and spiritual authority. And the worst part, they convince her this is holy. Not anymore. Today we name it and we take it back. So, we're going to begin with religion, but as I always say, if you didn't grow up in religion and that's not where your playing small came from, that's fine because we're going to cover all of it. But we're going to begin with religion. Number one, there is no representation of the feminine in deity. God is always male. So let's just say it plainly. There's zero representation of the feminine in patriarchal religion. And what's worst, most people steeped in patriarchal religion don't blink an eye at it. Why? Because it's blasphemous to even hint at the idea of a female god. How do you think that impacts the entire religious community? If God is man, then man is God. And that's how we act. How do we know that that's how we act? I know religious people say, no, that's not right. Yes, it is. Can you be a pastor? Can you be a bishop? Oh, you can't? Huh. Then the statement I said holds true. God is a man, therefore man is God. If you're not allowed to hold spiritual authority, man is your God. You must look to him for your spiritual authority. And that is how the religious world operates on every level. All of them. When divinity is only ever portrayed as male, women are automatically seen as subordinate. This is embedded in the subconscious psyche of every follower. It is a blueprint for who gets to lead, who gets to speak, who is in charge, who can be trusted, and who gets silenced. Let's be real. How can a woman reflect God when the feminine representation of God has been erased entirely? Now, I want to tell you, even in Christianity, earlier on, there was feminine representation of God. And I know you're going to recoil at that, but it's true. But the problem is, when the feminine representation of God has been erased, a woman cannot reflect God. And religion treats her accordingly. And guess what? That lie ends now. We are reclaiming the divine on our own terms, with the full feminine deity present, fully honored, and fully powerful. So, number 2, no priesthood power or authority. Women are always subordinate spiritually to men, and sometimes they're even subjugated to their own husbands. Depends on what religion you're in. Let's call it like it is. Churches love to use women, but they'll never actually empower them. You're not allowed to make a decision autonomously in any church as a woman. Sure, depending on the religious flavor you grew up with, the role of women might look different on the outside, but underneath it all, it's the same stale patriarchal game dressed up in its Sunday best. Women can't be pastors or bishops or leaders. They are not allowed to make decisions on their own or hold any real spiritual authority at all. If she dares to, quote, feel called to be a pastor or something, she better hope that calling conveniently fits inside the narrow little box men have approved for her. She can teach other women. She can manage the children. She can make funeral potatoes or fluff up the decor. She can even create church events like their Christmas party. And even then, she's still under the thumb of male leadership. Let's be real. She has no decision-making power. Not over the curriculum that's taught, not over budgets or programs, not even over the group she's supposedly, quote, in charge of. A women's ministry, a relief society, whatever flavor you come from, she's not in charge of that organization. She's not in charge of that budget. She's not in charge of the curriculum that's being taught. She can't make any of those decisions. She can't even choose the women she serves with. In LDS culture, she gets called as a Relief Society presidency. She doesn't even get to call her counselors. Men write the manuals. Men make the rules. Men hold the keys. She can pick the opening song, assign someone to say a prayer. That's about it. Everything else requires male permission. This isn't leadership. This is crumbs. It's patriarchy dressed up as divine order. Women deserve more than token titles and lip service. So no, we're not buying the, quote, separate but equal or different than but equal lie anymore. We're tearing the whole damn thing down and building something rooted in actual equality, spiritual sovereignty, and feminine power. And that's what we do here. So if that's not what you're about, this podcast is probably not for you. Number 3, dismissal of women by religious leaders. I'm going to give you some examples from different religions. Different Christian religions, because that's what I know. LDS Relief Society leaders erased from visibility. In 2023, LDS leaders banned female presidents from sitting on the stand during Sunday services, visibly erasing their leadership roles. What once symbolized inclusion and authority for women was stripped away without an apology, reminding everyone that in this church, men lead and women are just ornamental, or as they like to call them, auxiliaries. They're just side notes. So these women were actually from California. Not all women were ever allowed to sit on the stand, but some male leaders in California allowed the women to sit on the stand. If the men wouldn't have allowed them to, they never would have. So again, it was still rooted in patriarchy, but at least they were allowed to sit there. And then a 70 shows up and tosses them off and says, no more. That is how women are treated in the LDS Church. Most of the women members will fight against that because they've got to defend their beliefs. But that is how they are treated. Then we're going to move on to a Baptist seminary president who dismisses a rape survivor. Seminary student reported being raped at gunpoint, only to be re-traumatized by Paige Patterson, who made her recount her rape in front of the male leaders and called it a good thing. Instead of protection, she was humiliated, gaslighted, and threatened by the president of the seminary. This is how women are treated. And this is what happens when you live in a society where women are considered side notes. Women are considered objects to be consumed. Being raped is part of their ravenous wolf-like consumption of women. Most men don't have a problem with it. So this is how they're treated at church. They're not treated with dignity and respect, because in a patriarchal system where man is God, they don't care. Let's move on to number 3. Catholic priest abuses woman who was seeking counseling. So the woman's name was Laura, and she turned to her priest for spiritual guidance and was instead manipulated into an abusive relationship. When she reported him, the church swept it under the rug, protecting him and minimizing her trauma. Just another day in the Catholic Church's long history of shielding predators. And then we'll move on to number 4, which is an evangelical church. We got to hit them all, right? Women say enough. And the hashtag is silence is not spiritual. Over 140 evangelical women launched hashtag silence is not spiritual to call out the church's epidemic of abuse and inaction. They were done being told to forgive or stay quiet or submit. Can I tell you, this is how they handle things, because I went to ministry school. I know what they tell pastors. Any woman who is ever abused is told to submit better, that it was her fault, that divorce, God hates divorce. It's a horrible, horrible theology. This movement is a warning shot. God never asked women to stay silent about their suffering. Men did. This isn't just about leadership. It's about how power protects itself. Men in power will protect other men. In both religious and secular culture, women are silenced, dismissed, and discarded to preserve male dominance. From pulpits to boardrooms, the script is the same. When men harm, women are told to stay quiet for the greater good. Or women are told to forgive. But let's be clear, a system that silences women to protect men's power is broken beyond repair. You want change? Don't ask for a seat at the table. Flip the whole damn table over. You heard me. That's what you got to do. And this is why women are leaving religion now, because they're over it. Women are conditioned to defer to men. All of this is what is robbing women in religion of their joy. So, I want to tell you a story about a famous Christian woman who speaks across the country. She is a household name in Christianity. Now, this is the thing about religion and joy. Women don't have it. They fake it. And a lot of them don't even realize it because they don't even know what joy is. They've never had a damn day of it. Because they're too busy serving everyone and thinking that they're righteous, that they have no idea who they are or what their needs even are, because nobody cares. So anyway, this woman is a household name in Christianity, speaks everywhere. But because she's a woman, and Christianity sees women as easily deceived, like Eve, she's not allowed to trust her own voice. Every speech, and I learned this in ministry school, this is the story that we were told. Every speech had to be submitted first to her husband, who is her, quote, spiritual authority. He would review it, pray over it, and request changes that she was required to make. Once the husband approved it, it then went to her pastor, which was her next line of authority over her. And he had to pray over it and approve it, or she had to make required changes. And only if both men gave the green light could she speak at events. Let that sink in. A grown woman with wisdom, talent, an amazing speaking gift, a divine calling, and she needs two men's permission to use her voice. This isn't just about women who speak on stage. I once read a story in a popular Christian woman's magazine, which I do not read anymore at all. I think it's a horrible magazine. They praised a pregnant woman for her submission to her husband. Okay, this was the end of this magazine for me, and this was long before I left religion. She was nearly 3 months pregnant, and she was still in the thick of brutal morning sickness. Okay? Her husband wanted to save money to buy a townhome. And he decided that the best idea was for them to live in a tent in a KOA campground. You heard that right. Live in a tent. No bathroom, no running water, no kitchen. She was sleeping in a sleeping bag on the cold, uneven ground every night, waking up nauseous and exhausted. No private bathroom. She had to drag herself into a shared campground toilet every time she needed to vomit. She had no kitchen to prepare food that might help ease the nausea. She had no quiet room to rest in when fatigue crushed her. Her husband took their only car to work every day, leaving her completely stranded, alone, sick, and uncomfortable, isolated in a canvas box. What do you think this Christian magazine had to say about this? They praised her. They held her up as a shining example of what it means to be a godly wife. They praised biblical womanhood. This is their definition. A woman who submits to her husband's decisions no matter how much she suffers for it. Let that settle for a moment. This woman's suffering was spiritualized. Her needs were erased. Her discomfort was framed as devotion. And her husband's reckless decision was never once questioned. Because male authority is sacred and female pain is holy, as long as it serves her husband. This is what patriarchal religion teaches. Obedience over your well-being, submission over your sanity, enduring to the end over empowerment. And we wonder why women are burning out, breaking down. Why are they leaving religion? Why aren't women happy? Why are women leaving marriages? Because they say that they are a married single mother. Enough is enough. This isn't where joy is found. This type of behavior and treatment of women, silencing their voices, making them seek out men to approve of them, or allowing men to make decisions with reckless disregard for her well-being, we are done. This is what patriarchal religion calls benevolent leadership. Let me translate. You submit, he decides, you suffer, he's praised, and so are you. Let's be real. When you give any human being unchecked authority over another, it always leads to harm. Every time. Even if there are so-called good intentions, it will always lead to harm. These are just a couple of examples. I know dozens, hundreds, thousands more that I've heard from all walks of life, and not even just from religion, because men walk around like ravenous wolves in a patriarchal society, whether it's religious or not. Sovereignty is not optional. It's sacred, and it is vital to you experiencing joy. No woman should ever have to earn the right to make her own choices, period. No woman should ever be removed from decision-making that affects her life. And I mean this in religious organizations that involve women. Women need to be decision makers about their own curriculums, their own programs. But in order for women to experience true joy, women cannot be seen as commodities to be consumed and used. But in a patriarchal system, a woman is nothing more than functional roles wrapped in a body that men feel entitled to consume. Let me say that again. In patriarchal systems, women are commodities, nothing more than functional roles wrapped in a body men feel entitled to consume. The wife, she's not a partner. She's the maid, the nanny, the chef, the chauffeur, the secretary, the human calendar, the emotional support animal, and the full-time life manager, all while being expected to smile, stay attractive, and never complain. She tracks every school project, every dentist appointment, every birthday party. She knows the teacher's name, the pediatrician's number, the grocery list by heart, and the emotional needs of everyone in the house. Guess what? None of it is seen as leadership. It's just what a good woman does. Does that sound like joy to you? It's not. And so many women do this, and they're so used to being givers and pleasers, which actually, do you know, women's energy is receivers. We're not givers. We're receivers. We are very powerful. Don't get me wrong. But this is backwards, and this is why women are so exhausted and overwhelmed and over it. Meanwhile, this woman who is giving everything, the school projects, the dentist appointments, the birthday parties, all the things, other women in his orbit are evaluated by how they serve him. Is she visually pleasing? Great, she becomes his entertainment. Is she his kid's teacher? Cool, she's a tool for benefit. Waitress, nurse, administrative assistant, she exists to make his life smoother. Every woman is about how she pleases him or serves him in some way. But at no point is she viewed as an equal, not as sovereign, not as sacred, not as someone to be honored, just someone to be used. This mindset is so deeply ingrained. I know you're wondering, how does this have to do with joy? Because do you think you can experience joy living in this way? No. Most men don't see it. They've been taught to believe this is just the way things are. This is the way men are. They just look at women. They just consume them. Women are hot. Women are beautiful. Wives are supposed to be the way they are. It's all a lie. But it serves men, so why would they ever disagree with it? I'm going to tell you something. You are not here to be consumed. We are not service providers with wombs and lipstick. We are not support characters in the story of a man's life. We are the main characters in our own damn life. And we're done playing small so men can feel big. This is where your joy comes from. Your joy comes from becoming the main character in your own life. Pursuing your dreams, education, all of it. And not allowing yourself to just be his servant. He can pick up his own socks. He can clean up his own stuff. Because you matter too. And this is how you reclaim joy. I want to be crystal clear about the fallout here. It's not just about outdated gender roles or restrictive dress codes. It's about the systematic erasure of a woman's essence. You lose your voice when you are trained to stay quiet, agreeable, and submissive. Stop it. You lose your identity when you are shaped to reflect everyone else's needs, but not your own. You lose your sense of value and safety when your value is wrapped up in how you please a man. Do you please him visually? Are you serving his needs? You lose confidence when you're taught to second guess your intuition and defer to male authority. And ultimately, you lose your sovereignty, robbed of the right to lead your own life without asking permission. This is where the loss of joy in women comes from, because they're not living their lives authentically. They're trying to take care of everyone else and shoulder the entire weight of the world on their own backs, and they're cracking. And if you really, really look at it, it's not happiness. It's emotional bypassing that you're doing. You become a shell of who you could be, disconnected from your power, your body, your calling, your purpose in life. But here's the truth that the patriarchy fears the most. When a woman remembers who she is, there's no system strong enough to silence her again. When you find your joy, you find your sovereignty, you find your freedom, joy is on that side. So let's move on to the good part. So now we know what we've lost. We can't find our joy until we've kind of figure out how we lost it. So what do I mean by joy? Why did I choose the wording reclaiming joy? I find it ironic that in my religion of origin, they claimed that we might find temporary happiness outside the church, but true joy can only be offered to members of the church, because we were members of Jesus' true church. Joy cannot be experienced when you are betraying yourself by subscribing to oppressive patriarchal systems. Most women assume this means religion, but it doesn't. Patriarchal systems that see women's bodies as items to be displayed, purchased, used, consumed are even worse than patriarchal religion. It's misogynistic and it's abusive. So don't believe for 1 second that if you aren't a part of religion, you never were, you left it, whatever, that somehow you've escaped patriarchy and misogyny, because you have not. Joy is found when you feel safe in your own body, when you trust your own intuition, when you show respect for yourself, which is one thing that most women in secular society don't know how to do. They think they do, but they only know how to show, quote, respect for themselves based on patriarchal ideas of what that means. You can only find joy when you honor your own dignity. Most women do not do that. They think they do, but they don't. You have to shed all of the patriarchal conditioning, including secular. And then when you can live authentically from that place, that's where joy is found. Joy can only come from freedom. Joy is the fullest expression of you from the deepest place of honor and respect for yourself. Now, let me say that again. What you don't realize is society, the clothing that they offer you, all of the things that they are offering you is not about you coming from the deepest place of honor and respect for you. I want you to just evaluate that a little bit. Because joy is when you give yourself permission and when you love yourself enough. But when you love yourself enough, you're not seeking validation from other people. There's a lot of secular women that are seeking validation from external sources and they don't even realize it. So I would ask you to evaluate your life, the things that you do, the way that you act, the way that you dress, and I want you to really evaluate. Am I doing this out of respect and honor for myself, or am I doing this because I like the attention that I get? The words that you use, the way that you act. I want you to really think about that. So what does it mean to reclaim your sovereignty? This is a really hard one for people that have come from religious systems, but choosing your own belief system on your own terms. This is the most radical act of spiritual sovereignty there is. It means walking away from the fear-based dogma that told you who you had to be, what you had to believe, and who you had to answer to. It means burning the rule book and turning back to the one voice that was silenced the longest, your own. You do not owe anyone an explanation for the path your soul chooses. Not your parents, not your pastor, not your partner. You get to ask questions. Trust your intuition and build a belief system that supports your healing, that honors your feminine power and aligns with your truth. And guess what? That's not rebellion. It's freedom. And joy is found on the other side of this. I will say some of this comes with a dark night of the soul. I'm going to be honest with you. When you start breaking down these belief systems and untangling yourself from them, it can be really scary. But at the other side is joy. Stop asking for permission, stop explaining, and stop apologizing. The women they do this all the time. You don't need to justify your choices, shrink your truth, or soften your power to make anyone else comfortable. You're not here to live inside someone else's expectations or traditions. You're here to live your own life, loudly, unapologetically, and on purpose. Every time you ask for approval, you hand your power away. Every time you explain yourself or over-explain, you reinforce the idea that your voice needs a filter. And every time you apologize for simply being who you are, you reinforce the very system that tried to silence you. This ends now. You don't need permission to be free. You already are. You just have to realize it. Because unfortunately, the key to the cage that you are in, you hold. They just didn't want you to know that. You don't need validation from men, family, or religious authorities. Your worth is not up for debate. Your truth doesn't need a panel of approval. You're not here to play small so that other people can feel big. Especially when they say a wife, she gives up everything in her entire life so her husband can pursue everything he wants to be. That's not what you're here for. The moment you stop looking outside of yourself for permission to fully live, you become untouchable. Let them judge. Let them whisper. It doesn't matter. Because when you anchor into your own knowing, you become the authority of your own life. And that's the power they never wanted you to claim. That's where joy is found. The other thing I think is really important, expect men to be adults, not a man-child. You're not his mama. You're not his maid. You're not his emotional rehab center. He's a grown-ass man. He can manage a laundry basket. He can pack his own lunch. He can schedule a damn doctor's appointment without you spoon-feeding him directions. We've been trained to applaud the bare minimum from men. Quote, he babysat his own kids. No, that's called parenting. You deserve a partner, not a man-child who thinks helping is heroic. Raise your standards and stop normalizing immaturity in men. If he's grown enough to want respect, he better act like a grown man and carry his share of the weight. If you want to find joy in your life, you need a partner, not someone to lord leadership and authority over you. Not someone who sits on the couch and expects you to do everything. That is not how this goes. And you will be exhausted and burned out. That is not how you find joy. When he puts away his own shoes, rinses the toothpaste off the sink, learns how a drawer works, even the one his toothbrush goes in, you are not the default house manager, and you are not here to raise a fully grown man. If he can run a meeting at work, he can run a vacuum. If he can learn fantasy football stats, he can learn how to fold a fitted sheet. Being a partner means pulling your weight, not watching her drown while you pitch in a little here and there. You deserve equality, not crumbs. So basically, step up or step aside, sir. This is how it goes, and I know it's difficult, but women being able to find joy and happiness and fulfillment in their lives means that they are not buried under the weight of men not pulling their own. Healthy relationships are partnerships, not hierarchies, despite what religion wants to tell you. And you know what? It's secular men do this too. There's a lot of men out there that don't go to church ever, but they still see women as objects to serve them because patriarchy is great for men. It works for them. So why would they not want to embrace whatever religion was throwing out about patriarchy? Sure, you put everything away after me. You do my laundry, you cook, you clean, you do everything, you raise the kids, and I'll just go out and look at the hotter women that are over there. Secular men do it too. Healthy relationship means he doesn't get to play king while you play servant. He honors and respects you in every way. Your voice, your dreams, your needs, and your no's. When you say you don't want something in a relationship, he respects that. You're building a life together, not just orbiting around his. This looks like shared responsibility, mutual support, and a balance that values both of your contributions equally. Whether it's raising the kids, managing the home, or chasing your big soul-fueled dreams, you both do it together. You weren't created to be the background character in his story. You're building a co-authored life, not living in his shadow. So let's get one thing straight. Reclaiming your sovereignty means you stop living your life on someone else's terms. Again, this is how you reclaim your joy. Reclaiming your sovereignty. Standing in your truth and standing in your power. Stop filtering your truth through a pastor, a prophet, or a man who thinks his authority outranks your intuition. Stop asking for permission. Stop explaining your choices. And you sure as hell stop apologizing for existing in your full power. You do not need validation from your husband, your bishop, your father, your pastor, or anyone else who thinks your life needs their stamp of approval. It doesn't. I know this might not seem like it has anything to do with joy, but it has everything to do with it. Because until you can stand up for yourself and stop allowing men to treat you this way in your life, you're not going to find it. While you're at it, expect men to act like grown adults, not entitled man babies who treat you like their mom, their maid, or their emotional life support. They can do dishes. They can wipe their kid's nose. They can book the dentist appointment. Co-parenting and co-creating a life means contributing equally. And I will say this until I am blue in the face, but women are not going to find themselves and find their joy and find everything amazing in their lives. They're not even going to know their soul's purpose on this earth if they are buried under the weight of men. You're not a doormat. You're not here to serve. You are a whole sovereign being. Start acting like it. And when you do, watch the whole world shift. You're not a doormat. So how do you redefine this in reclaiming your joy? You start by stepping into your power. It might mean that you walk out of those church doors for the last time. You may reduce your contact with certain family members or friends because you are no longer going to absorb their toxic behavior or disrespect. Your relationship with your partner might shift, or it may even end. Only you can decide what's right for you, but at the end of the day, you matter. You deserve to be happy. And if anyone is disrespecting you or relying on your sacrifice while giving nothing, but maybe a paycheck in return, it's time to get the courage to know you are worth far more than what you are currently accepting. And your joy lies just beyond the horizon of not taking it anymore. Explore what brings you joy. Hobbies, passions, education, travel. What is it? What sets your soul on fire? Stop waiting for someone to give you the green light. If it lights you up, that's your sign. Do it. Take the course. Book the trip. Pick up the paintbrush. Go back to school. Start the damn business. You don't need approval or applause. You're not born to live for everyone else. Your life is your own. And it's never too late. So go chase the dream that refuses to leave your heart and do it unapologetically. That's where your joy is. Challenge everything you were told was a sin. Coffee, wine, yoga, meditation. What do you actually believe? When I finally left religion behind, I remember the first time I walked into Starbucks to have my first ever taste of coffee. I was 46 years old. I had no idea what I was doing. I felt like an idiot. But you know what? I gathered up my courage, I walked up to the register, and I ordered my pumpkin spice latte with almond milk. And even though the bitterness was a little unfamiliar, I drank the whole thing, and I didn't have an ounce of guilt. Why? Because my soul knew that this was never a sin to begin with. My first glass of wine was a rite of passage, again, at 46 years old. It's about a month later, after I had coffee. It was the evening after reclaiming my wedding at our vow renewal in a beautiful glass chapel. I found myself looking at a wine list. I had no idea what any of this was. I had no idea. I didn't know. I thought wine was going to taste like sparkling grape juice. I pointed to the Prosecco. I had no idea what that was. I just pointed to one. Eeny, meeny, miny, moe, this one. Well, it tasted like sparkling gasoline. I'm going to be real. I had no idea what Prosecco was. But I drank the whole thing. I felt a little weird after when I finished. I was definitely a lightweight. I don't even know how to describe what I felt like. I clearly wasn't drunk, but I definitely felt a little something. But I didn't feel an ounce of guilt because my soul knew this was never a sin. I finally realized that the concept of sin is a man-made construct designed for control. I sat down one day to really ponder about my own morals and values. And I came up with a statement that resonated so deeply in my soul. It's become the standard for how I live my life. And this is it. Every thought, every action, every decision I make should never cause harm and should always honor the dignity of all beings. It's simple, yet profound. And it works for me. And that's something that you also need to do for yourself. Another one that I would say is build a spiritual practice that feels aligned with your soul, not one handed to you by someone else's doctrine. Maybe it's meditation, yoga, breathwork, praying to a feminine deity, dancing barefoot in a drum circle, diving into astrology. Maybe it's sitting in silence and feeling your own truth. Maybe it's nothing at all. Feminine spirituality doesn't follow rigid checklists. It's intuitive, it's flowing, it's cyclical, and it's sacred. You get to decide what connects you to the divine because your connection is yours. No permission needed. And I know there were a lot of things that I did initially that were hard. I started using healing stones and crystals, and I had a deep fear inside myself that I was doing something wrong. It took a long time to untangle myself from beliefs that were handed to me from someone else. And the last thing I want to say is don't let anyone mistake softness for weakness. The divine feminine is a force of nature. She is wild, fierce, intuitive, flowing, nurturing, and deeply wise. She births life, not just babies, ideas, movements, healing, business, truth. You carry that power. Your voice shakes systems. Your presence shifts rooms. Your intuition is a compass, and your truth is sacred. The world doesn't need the watered-down, silenced version of you. It needs your full, untamed feminine expression. All of it. All of you. It's time for you to rise. This is your invitation to reclaim your joy, your truth, and your divine feminine power. You were never meant to shrink to fit into a system. You were meant to rise and create your own. You weren't born to be obedient. You were born to be free. If this episode lit a fire in your soul, follow the podcast, share it with a woman who needs to hear this message, and don't forget to hit that 5-star review. If you're ready to work with me, you can visit tandyhartle.com to book a hypnotherapy session, join a healing journey, or explore my full lineup of offerings there. Your freedom starts now. Let's rise together.